1 minute ahead of schedule. Pretty efficient, I'd say. Yeah, well, we all know how the rematch has shaped up in the biggest event of the year in this sport. Certainly won't be the draft this year. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Um, but I I just feel like you know, most importantly that we're just so privileged like to see the peak of this sport. A power play that's a cheat code up against one of the greatest forechecks you'll ever see in your life. Like it's really unstoppable force versus unstoppable force when you get down to it, and it's appropriate that we've had two overtime games to start things off. Christian will be in momentarily. I won't have to monologue the entire time. Let's see. Just doing some cross posting here. Hey, that's my face. Da, da, da. Interesting seeing how things have shaped up in terms of who's talking to who during like combine week and everything right now. It's definitely, I think what is perhaps most interesting is like there's been some real radio static like in terms of what's going on in terms of who's pursuing some top guys. Like I haven't heard anything about Porter Martone really or Jake O'Brien. Like these OHL guys have seemed to be left out to dry in this process for some reason, which is kind of fascinating. Um, Also, kind of like a little bit of unevenness. Like some teams have been either not doing much or kind of been relatively subdued in their coverage. Like even like the Anaheim writers that I follow haven't really said anything about who they're interviewing or whatever. At least not that I've seen. I could just be a myopic dummy. I don't know.
No, I think after Pat Verbeek interviewed a couple hundred coaches before he hired Greg Cronin, and then that went poorly, he just doesn't interview anyone anymore. He just uses the force man,
That would explain a lot.
or should I say the Schwartz? As I just watched Spaceballs this afternoon.
I'm surrounded by assholes. What
I
it's
will,
like seemingly to be serve on just about every Anaheim front office ever. But keep going.
you know, after watching that with my wife today, my wife was not as amused by Spaceballs as I would have hoped. But that's okay. Man, could you imagine if John Candy just played defense like back in the 70s and 80s? Like, man would have been a unit.
An absolute rig for sure.
Fuck Pat Maroon. Just John Candy. You could get a Jamaican bobsled team to the Olympics, so why not play defense or forward?
Oh yeah.
You're welcome, listeners. That's definitely not a visual you thought you were going to get tonight. Maybe that's what's wrong with the Leafs. The Leafs should start trying to win one for John Candy.
Yeah, that's that would certainly be a driver.
I mean, it has to work better than everything else they've been doing.
What the hell? Oh, okay. I see what's going on here. There we go. I was thinking like is it a given like that if any team were to have a Chris Farley tribute run, would it be the Blackhawks most likely?
Probably. Yeah, I was thinking about the Wild, but like Chris Farley was never mediocre enough to be affiliated with the Wild. Like Chevy Chase in the Minnesota Wild is kind of a thing, but like, yeah, Chris Farley in the Blackhawks kind of feels good.
He did
Uh,
OD on a speedball in his apartment at the John Hancock Center. So there's a bit of connection there. And plus, like, I mean, I feel like he had he had like the right degenerate energy to match the organizational culture. So
yeah,
I didn't think this is how our opening minutes were going to go at all. I did not foresee this in the least.
no, no.
Holy shit.
You know, that really brings you down to the tricky part of like, where does Adam Sandler, even though he is still alive, really fall into this? Because like Adam Sandler, it wouldn't align with the Rangers. I know that the Bruins and the Happy Gilmore thing, but that's just the Bruins are more successful. Like as good as talented and as successful as Adam Sandler has been, his career trajectory and like overall arc is not really aligned to the Bruins because there's far too much mediocrity in Adam Sandler's career. We're like, yeah, we can talk about the Bruins' mediocrity, but their historically impressive winning percentage over the last 30 years kind of like,
I don't know, because like I'd say the New York Islanders, but the Islanders have yet to have their uncut gems moment. At least so far, we'll see if because we all fucking know they're gonna take James Higgins at first overall. We will see if their Long Island native son will be serve as the uncut gems of New York Islanders history.
at this point, is Adam Sandler more aligned with the New Jersey Devils? I mean,
Possibly.
I feel like the relevancy points of his career kind of hit the same high points in the Devils franchise history. And like they had their run in 2012, but it's not like they were fucking relevant at any point in that run. They just kind of endured in a Eastern Conference playoff field that just wasn't. And that really does kind of feel like the Pixels, that movie with Jennifer Aniston, Just Go With It, I think it's called. Like nothing he was making was good, but like it was passable at the box office to a point where he achieved some level of relevancy. And now we just clamor at the nostalgia of like Happy Gilmore getting a sequel in the same vein of the New Jersey Devils having Jack Hughes of like,
Yeah,
sure, it's
see,
pretty, but like
that's
it's
the
not.
problem. Like Jack Hughes is not their uncut gems moment in the
No,
least. Like,
I
although,
feel like I feel like early like Nico was kind of like
fuck.
I feel like that was kind of the closest they were gonna get to an uncut gems. But then again, like anytime Ken Danico opens his mouth on the broadcast, it feels like I'm watching Uncut Gems because I'm sweaty and uncomfortable.
Yeah,
That ne-
I think CTE affecting someone's ability to have consistent thought and also calling out players for doing the same shit that you made a career off of does probably have about the same effect as being like very darkly and grotesquely reminded that remnants of 1970s and 1980s New York are still around and can kill you, and apparently can get Kevin Garnett involved.
And that's another thing that makes it kind of tough. Is like I can talk about being uncomfortable listening to Ken Danico talk about hockey and watching the Devils play, but everybody in our inner circle also knows about my fear of Kevin Garnett in general. So like my experience watching Uncut Gems is far different than most people's.
He was looking to dominate you.
He was,
He
there
is
aren't
just
many
gonna
things.
swoop in.
The only thing scarier than Kevin Garnett driving the lane is Kevin Garnett ominously staring at you from a Wheaties box.
It literally was just the perfect thing to distract you in that one photo up.
God, now I'm thinking of like Scott Stevens' elbow in the '03, final versus Kevin Garnett on a Wheaties box having a similar role in my life.
Go figure. Yesterday was the 22nd anniversary of Off the Floor on the Board.
I saw that, and yesterday was also, a celebration of the 10th year of Dreams of Badness, which, in the early promotional cycles of that is the infamous me being afraid of Kevin Garnett on a Wheaties box.
Yep.
It's all relevant. It's all relative.
Goddamn numerology.
It's too bad Adam Sandler didn't do anything yesterday. Let me rephrase. Adam Sandler didn't do anything of note yesterday.
Jesus. There's only one thing I can do in this moment. I feel like nothing. I assume nothing big.
No, he had in the last couple of days a conversation about Derrick Henry getting a role in a movie if he clears 2,000 yards, which is very Christian coded because like I'm not gonna lie, under the right conditions, I feel like Derrick Henry on a Wheaties box could have the same level of aura as Kevin Garnett.
Uh,
But if Adam Sandler can deliver that, he's still New Jersey Devils coded in the worst kind of way.
um, I don't know why, but after the talk of like speedballs and degeneracy, I feel it's appropriate to bring up that I sent that screen cap of me in this exact behavior that I'm indulging in right now to a high school friend, and his response was Charlie Sheen on a random Thursday. Man, should we pursue
Fucking,
a Boom Boom Stick sponsorship, like for real?
you know, that's going to be up there, in the next couple weeks as I start to cold call agents of PWHL players to try to line up some interviews, why not just try to get, Boom Boom Sticks as a branded partner? Like, if there's one thing about Black Stitch Hockey's corporate endorsements, I don't know how many companies want to be affiliated with us, but we stand by all the products that appear and all the references we make.
I have this like gut feeling that like judging by some of the podcasts they've endorsed over the years, it's going to be like the male enhancement product Blue Chew or something that ends up being our first.
The thing though is though, like I don't think morally I'd be willing to take ED treatment money. Like I'm too much of a feminist under current socio-political issues to endorse any like gender affirming care product for heterosexual males or homosexual males. To be fair, um, how long before the Express VPN sponsorship shows up? Because the only things we really care about is internet privacy and people not losing their rights.
I will
Equal.
say a lot of those products are can be medically necessary for a variety of reasons, hence their prescription status. Like Viagra is actually a prominent example due to it having other implications besides, the obvious. But we don't need to get too serious with this one.
I was gonna say now we are fully into Chad Ochocinco territory. All-time soundbite.
Jesus.
You know, I'm not gonna lie. There was probably a point where I think in 2003, if you trotted Chad Johnson out onto the ice with Steve Hines, the results in Columbus, Ohio, couldn't have been much worse.
100%. And it's great because, there are a number of ways you can take that. You can either be talking about Chad Johnson, the elite wide receiver, most known for his time with the Cincinnati Bengals, or Chad Johnson, the fairly mediocre goaltender, most known by a specific niche. Mostly people who followed the Days of Yore blog back in the day from the Boston Bruins.
I'm getting pissed off at myself because I'm drawing a fucking blank on who the goalie was on that Columbus team. Because Tugnutt didn't come along until after the lockout. And I know it was, if I recall correctly, it was a fairly underrated Quebecois. Gotta do some research.
Yeah, I'm traveling down this same path, but we'll see who gets there first. Not that it's of all that much
Marc
consequence.
Marc Denis.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Brathwaite was his backup, but Marc Denis was like kind of nice. Like his stats in that era were not great, but like he also went from third string in Colorado to playing for an expansion team to playing for Tampa Bay in the post-lockout, like I think Barry Melrose era. So like, homeboy was cooked.
Yeah, I mean, I respect these, it's funny you bring Brathwaite up because, I mean, you look back at him, he was posting, sub 900s during the fucking dead puck era. So, you could always do worse.
Yeah, you know the thing that I like about Brathwaite specifically is, and I'm going to make sure I don't do something stupid. Okay, I'm not going to do something stupid and accidentally be racist. Um, you know, his work coaching for the Henderson Silver Knights has been pretty good. I mean, he was a very has been a really respectable goalie coach for them. You know, he suited up as their e-bug at one point in time, which was pretty interesting. The fact that he did it not once but twice to a point where EP has to register it as he appeared on the bench. But like, you kind of look at what he's done as the goalie coach for Henderson, and it's kind of impressive, like the success he's had there, and even in 17-18, working as the goalie coach with Grice and Halak with the Islanders, like he's a great example of a mediocre player who did some pretty impressive work behind the bench. You can tell we're kind of in the dead season of Dev League news and other things where we're talking about Fred Brathwaite's goalie coaching prowess, but you know, it's I think it's important to acknowledge guys who are doing good work.
He's presiding over the development of Trevor Connolly, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's I think going to be a really not I don't want to say that it's going to be a key part in Trevor Connolly's social liberation arc of he knew one black guy, but like because we know people love to use that constantly of rehabilitating as a guy with experience with racism, and I'm not going to go too far down that that classical fucking logical fallacy, but like I think that there's some room there for Connolly to have some exposure to successful black men in hockey, you know.
Man.
Man. You know, I also really like how we've come so far in the last 15 years with, you know, some degree of racial equality in the NHL, specifically to where it's not being like talked about as much of like, hey, there's a black guy of like, because you know who else was on that Blue Jackets team was Jean-Luc Grandpierre, and you know
Yep.
he was a hell of a third pairing defender. Like he could hit, he could
Oh
skate.
yeah.
You know, if he wasn't on an expansion team, I think, you know, he could have had probably more success. And it is kind of a shame that the Sabres didn't retain him, you know, in the early years through the expansion draft. But it was really great, too, when he was playing for the Lowell Devils. And we got to see a little bit more of him in a top four, like, stay at home role with that team. And hey, man, like props to the Blue Jackets for also keeping JLGP around as a studio analyst as well. So
Yeah.
like you know, and I have a soft spot in my heart for late '90s, early 2000s Buffalo Sabres players with French accents doing studio analytics work. JLGP, I mean Martin Biron is one of my favorites today. He's one of the few analysts I trust in terms of like Biron is actually a guy who does not use a lot of stats or analytics, but actually speaks to anecdote in a way that isn't like old time boomer bullshit.
Let's see. Hmm. And I'm really trying right now to get some indication as to who like Anaheim has on their radar. It seems to be popular with fans, but like because there is some intrigue around both Brady Martin and Roger McQueen, particularly for the latter having utilized Ryan Getzlaf as his player comp. But I can't tell who they actually want like at all.
I mean, the thing with Martin and McQueen is I'll be very, 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 to quote our boy Eric, surprised if any of those dudes actually make it to 10.
Yeah, especially now that we know that McQueen has a clean bill of health, effectively, and that the back fracture thing was technically true in the most literal sense, but like the actual form that it was not an I broke my back spinal situation, even though that was the prevailing narrative for a long time. It's effectively like the most like innocuous freaking back fracture that there is, where the article on Johns Hopkins website on this topic effectively says potential risk factors for this injury include being a human being and walking. Like it's not even a real thing, basically. I think Martin maybe there's a little more degree of confidence, but there is like a very good opportunity that there's a very good chance he does go past like he doesn't survive past like that 7 through 9 range. Like it does seem like that's like a very feasible landing spot for him, and like if the Bruins can get over this phobia they have of drafting OHLers, despite having a very rich lineage in the history of the OHL, particularly, and having you know, had a great track record with their OHA farm teams back when that was the dev model for the NHL. They it does seem like he has Boston Bruins codedness just written all over him at that 7th spot.
I mean, honestly, you know, last year I had emotionally prepared myself for the Seneca pick ahead of time. to a point where I just had to walk out and stare off into the fading, fleeting horizon, instead of having an outburst on our live stream. Um, this year, my Seneca equivalent of players I don't want, but I have prepared myself for the selection is a worst case scenario. Um, I am ready for Logan Hensler to be the 10th overall pick in this draft. I don't know why. Like, that's just
You know, he has that he has the distinct combination of being unconventional enough, yet rated also simultaneously rated and perceived highly enough for it to be a viable possibility in that part of the draft. And yet, it's like it's funny because as like much uh, of his acclaim that I find to be overpronounced. I don't even think that he's a bad prospect for a team to have in their pool. It's just a depressing selection to make at 10.
yeah. I mean, it's probably going to be him or Murtaka unless
Merca,
somebody. You're right.
Diablo's coming for your ass now. Got their boy's
Turga.
name wrong.
It's going to probably be one of those two. If he, Turga's probably not going to last until 10 because of how big he is, and
Oh yeah,
I don't.
Merca is literally just a freaking like. But he's like, as much as I kind of respect that he had like some productivity to his name in the Thunderbirds, on which on in like their care under their care, as a team that was painfully mediocre this season at best, which is also why I got to give a lot of props to Braden Coots for some of the things he accomplished as well. Like, uh, I just and he did so well, like never having been very offensively productive prior to this season. Like, I just look at this. It's like, uh, I mean, it's just like a frame and being a better skater than Tyson Forrester, like type pick effectively.
I'm starting to think the reason that Lamoriello got ousted from the Islanders is because he was genuinely considering taking him at number one.
Yeah, that would be in line with his modus operandi.
Like, I don't see how he makes it through both Utah and Boston to get that far.
Nambilla Armstrong. That's my
Like,
joke there.
though, a team who actually I think should genuinely consider taking him is if he's still there is probably Buffalo. And the thought process being like, why? And it really just comes down to, as I've gotten older and watched more hockey, if you asked me, and we talked about this in the early years of the podcast, like in the first few episodes, I didn't have as much of a fucking hard on for balancing your defensive pairings. But I've watched the Sabres enough to realize that the NHL has gotten so goddamn fast, where like that extra 1.5 seconds on the wall of a right-handed defender really does make a difference. Where like Buffalo's insistence of having either Byram Dahlin or power play on their offhand is a big part of why they can't get anything better, worse than a 10th like pick and get to the playoffs. Like that's a team that really just needs to fucking go get a big-bodied right-handed defender that has some fucking mobility. Like, trust me, like he doesn't even need to fucking, in his case, like be offensively competent to play on a pairing with Dahlin. Like, just be big and win battles on the fucking wall.
Yeah, this is this kind of like matches a lot of the thought process that we've had in my GC about his potential fit with that organization's roster, and also him sort of, I think, fitting some of their ideals in prospect eval generally as well. So I definitely see them having him high on their board and probably like taking him as their top preference potentially if he falls to them.
I mean, the only I think thing that could potentially, and I'm trying to think on my feet here to pitch a hypothetical trade that could or could not make sense. I just need to make sure that the handedness makes sense in my argument, so I can become a potential terrorist on a uh, 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 it's a real damn shame because we all know the Bo Byram to Philly narrative, and it's a goddamn shame that that Sanheim's not right-handed. Because Sam Heim for Byram would have been an absolute dunk if the handedness worked out. Damn shame.
Yeah. I definitely view it from a similar lens.
Like that could have been because like Sanheim in Buffalo, like no expectations, no pressure, no expectation of competency. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and whoever he would be paired up with would 100% be like a more complementary fit than the Cam York experiment, which is the primary reason for York's failings effectively.
Yeah. Like Cam York just needs like I would think he just needs a moderately competent RHD.
Yeah, and someone who isn't too similar either, because like despite some good flashes, when they tried him with Drysdale, they were just too similar to work.
Yeah.
Like that was effectively why their underlyings didn't look so good.
I'm trying to think of, a good I mean, trying to like it is kind of awful for me to say this, but like a good fucking pairing mate, and it can't possibly happen because he's already found his decent homie in Anaheim. But like, not for nothing, Jacob Trouba would be hilariously like fun with Camp York. Because like, and we've seen it with Lacombe. Like Lacombe's surgence in Anaheim was like kind of two pronged. Where like, I'm not gonna come out here and say he's a little overhyped, but like he had a lot of struggles in year one because he played a lot with Fowler with the offhandedness with one another that made it really difficult for Lacombe to be effective. But like him playing with just CTE landmine really just opened up his ability to just kind of go be more of an impactful offensive player and create. And it's a goddamn shame that Jacob Trouba's just an $8 million per year roaming CTE landmine, but like Brandon Carlo to the Flyers confirmed.
What I always say, like I'll welcome anyone new. Uh, at this point. Like I've said like I'd take Cody Glass just to have someone on this team who isn't one of these like mid fucking guys who's been here for like 5 to like fucking 8 years, and it's appropriate that both Frost and Farabee were dealt out in the same deal, considering they probably exemplify this the strongest. Hell, I would take Tanner Glass just to have a fucking change up at this point. So Brandon Carlo is not the worst we could do in that respect.
I mean, I gotta verify that this guy is a free agent before I throw it out there. There is one guy I think the Flyers could bring in who could actually make their roster worse on the blue line. And his first name is Cody, and his last name is Cece.
Yeah, I have some lines I can draw.
You know what's gonna? It's so crazy to me that somebody's actually like, and I hate to be an asshole or just like really like carpet bomb a particular player, but some team is going to sign Cody Cece in early July and talk about how great it is, like of a pickup, for it to inevitably be like a franchise-altering mistake in a very microscopic window of games. Like, I can't single-handedly pin Dallas's playoff exit on him, but he played a pretty substantial fucking role in, their exit against Edmonton of just, not being fucking viable, much like he played a pretty consequential role in Edmonton not winning a championship last year. Like, he's going to go somewhere because right-handed defensemen that have played a lot of minutes, meaningful minutes, are rare. And, Cody Cece is a man who plays a lot of meaningful minutes, and he's almost always on the wrong end of them. Oh, he's going to the Bruins, isn't he? As part of the we're going to make the playoffs this year bandwagon.
Um, where was I going with this? Uh, Speaking of Bruins crossovers, with that particular franchise, and on a topic that we hit upon briefly just before we launched, is Trent Frederick looking like he has the potential to be Cody Cece forward edition for Edmonton this year? Uh, I mean, like, he doesn't have as significant of a role, but he is in that spot where he'd be better off in the press box than on the ice.
Yeah, Trent Frederick is one of those guys who Trent Frederick Trent Frederick Trent Frederick. He's just one of those guys who's like allegedly built for playoff hockey and built for these moments. But when it actually comes down to playoff hockey in these moments, even dating back to his time in Boston, like Trent Frederick isn't him.
No.
He's not a hooper.
No.
Like it. He's one of those guys I've never had a high opinion of, and as I've watched him in this like playoff run with Edmonton recently, like he's destined for something, and I don't know what that is yet.
Certainly GOAT status, and not all like uppercase letters GOAT. Like not all caps GOAT. We're not talking greatest all time here. We're talking about like the kind that Bill Buckner was pinned as in Boston for decades. Like when you consider just some of those horrendous mental miscues he's had in this finals matchup so far.
He's gonna not be an Oiler next year. Some
I wouldn't be
team
so
is
sure. Because I mean, I did just tag my buddy Connor Hill, fantastic hockey writer and a guy who is simultaneously a member of both the Canadiens and Oilers fan bases and the most positive presence in both of them. Uh, and I said, and it's looking like, from insiders that Freddie is going to get an extension. And I tagged Connor in that, and I, with of course a nod to it, that infamous copy pasta we discussed before by saying he needs one, and Connor responded, uh, expressing his dismay at the situation by saying, "I need one," with drink in parentheses immediately thereafter.
Yeah, he's gonna get if he remains in Edmonton, he's gonna become a very, I think, disliked player in that fan base. He's probably gonna get paid too much. But hey, he's not going to be the most overpaid player this offseason on the other side of this cup final. And what I love that I'm almost manifesting in my brain with what I've read. I like how the Toronto Maple Leafs are considering making the biggest mistake 3 times. If the Toronto Maple Leafs signed Sam Bennett for over $8 million per season, you would think the team that overpaid Dave Clarkson, the team that acquired and overpaid Dave Bolland, would have by now fucking figured out to stop fucking acquiring glorified third liners who have incredible postseason performances to ludicrously overvalued contracts. If there's one team that should have figured this out by now, it's them. But hey, what do I know? I'm not ready for whatever contract Sam Bennett gets in the offseason.
Me neither. I think about it all the time, like just how he is actually going to get what. I mean, of course, people can probably bullishly claim that the contract I'm about to reference has already lived up to this reputation, but you know, um, they have a decent chance over there of fucking like. I want to make sure I maximize this for impact here. Bradshaw Living has an opportunity to pull a Bill Guerin with Brock Faber, but completely unironically by stealing Smiles and paying the the overhyped, inevitably going to be overpriced member of this free agent class, uh, too rich, and just making sure that that he creates a void of pit of despair and pain that makes ensures that people feel no peace and happiness inside.
Ah, fucking crazy. Any Dev League or prospect updates you want to kick in for the week?
I will say that I dropped it in the group me, but there is I got a give credit to the creator of this Brady Martin in a Bruins jersey graphic, because as much as I hate to lend credence to that fan base, seeing him in a Bruins jersey does admittedly look right, which might, if we're going off of vibes, it might say something for sure about what his fate is going to be at the end of the month. I'm going to take a quick look at the CHL to NCAA pipeline here, see if there is really anything worth talking about. Let's see. NCAA commitments. Sure. Let's see. We did get confirmation that Justin Poirier of the I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on this. I've written about his QMJHL exploits plenty. Oh yeah, the Baikamo Drakkar will be headed to the University of Maine for this coming season. With him having posted back-to-back 80-plus point campaigns, with this last one being most notable, given that he did it in 58 games. And you know, in contrast with last season, full 68 game campaign, you know, he is bringing some pretty good offensive upside and a pretty well-rounded game overall in, you know, to Orono. I did covet him as like a very like good sleeper pick and commended Carolina in a couple of different written pieces for having picked him up on day 2, particularly in round 5 in the 2024 draft. You know, real good shot on him. Just very much a guy who's like a lethal finisher in a few different ways. Good skater. Good pickup by them. Let's see. I will also, if I didn't tap on this before, I am enjoying Dylan Wakely of the Barrie Colts to UMass Lowell as well. The Guelph Storms, Jake Carabella will be headed to the Ohio State University as well. That was announced a little bit more recently. Let's see, anything else I want to, that it's like really pops as like a big one. Oh yeah, Mathis Rousseau of the Moncton Wildcats will be headed to Maine as well. I feel like it's kind of slowed down a bit, you know, ever since the absolute just like explosion with that dual Victoria Royals to UND announcement was made with both Rezhny and Verhoff becoming Fighting Hawks beginning next year. Although I also feel like where there is smoke, there's almost definitely fire with how big these developments are. And you know, how just about anything seems on the table now in light of that Verhoff commitment. Now we're getting some indication that Justin Carbonneau at the Blainville Boisbriand Armada in the queue is in talks with a few different D1 programs. Both Boston College and Boston University are in that recruiting war right now. It's not limited to just them, but they are a couple of like the front runners, and I believe they both had formal talks with him. So that's definitely one of the most exciting ones that's going on right now. I am pretty much certain beyond a doubt that Carbonneau, you know, of course, a pretty coveted member of this 2025 draft class, is going to be playing NCAA hockey next season. And where that is definitely going to be, you know, something that is a very consequential development for whichever program lands him. and uh, of course, the Gavin McKenna sweepstakes are still on. I did see a pretty bad take from Daily Face Off on one of their podcasts where they said that if he returns to the WHL next year, then he will be a shoe-in for the first-round pick, and that if he commits to NCAA and takes that path, let me see how they articulated it. Is he taking a risk by going the NCAA route? And of course, it was fucking Johnny Lazarus and Kobe Cohen having this dialogue. But why is this even worth entertaining when it's obviously like you're dealing with someone who just is going to succeed no matter where he goes, at least as dev hockey is concerned. Uh, and honestly, even the pros, even if like maybe like his ceiling might be one or two steps below how it's perceived. We won't really know for sure until we get there. That is on the table, but obviously like his floor even in the NHL is tremendous. But like if he goes to NCAA, I was just saying this last night. Like we discussed, like the kid, even as he is now, is going to be putting up at least like Macklin Celebrini numbers at minimum. So it's like I didn't get that talking point at all. I'm not gonna, I like to just discuss news in these blocks, so I'm not gonna give Kobe Cohen any more emotional energy in this particular space. And in fact, I think this probably puts a decent bow on it. Now that I've had enough of a comedic and absurd digression through this process, as things have kind of slowed down a little bit.
Beautiful. Uh, what a time to be alive. PWHL expansion draft kicks off tomorrow night. Which is kind of weird to think about how we're technically like almost halfway through all of the expansion acquisitions. One thing, and it might just be copium of, me having never smiled in my life. Um, I need you to know when that certain gentleman that is pretty active in Facebook PWHL communities was giving me shit again. I need, for people who don't know the lore, I'm not going to drop any names. If people remember what Black Stitch Hockey's journalism brand is about, it's mainly about positive narratives and headlines as a reminder to everybody. And I'm just, I basically have, to name drop a Twitter account, good old Chatburn. I've found my Chatburn in the form of a boomer from Minnesota who just has the most, and not in the case of Chatburn here, to be fair, of just goes out of his way to just be negative about every positive article I put out. I've never seen a man just feel a need to espouse negativity on every narrative that I put out there. I've never seen somebody go out of their way to be like, you portrayed this in a light that it might not be as bad as I think. How dare you make it seem like my suffering's actually not that bad? And I need you to understand, it took every ounce of my being this morning to not copy pasta a Minnesota or Canadian-based boomer at 10 o'clock in the morning on Facebook.
Beautiful.
And with that as a segue to where I'm going with the expansion draft, when I looked, shout out and credit to the Ice Garden for their awesome ability to parse out unrestricted free agents versus, protected players in the expansion draft who are selectable. I really think that the majority of the worst possible damage to PWHL rosters was done in the last week. Realistically, nobody else has more than maybe one legitimate star-type player that they could actually fucking lose tomorrow night. And the rest of them are just your no offense, of course, your mediocre middle six and bottom four players that you're just going to name drop randomly in 10 years of, hey, you remember when Brooke McQuigg played for Minnesota type players are going to be available. You know, we're talking about like PJ Axelson type players are probably the types of people who are like going to be taken tomorrow night for the most part with what's left. Because like to really emphasize the Toronto thing, because I didn't feel the justification to type this out. Hannah Miller, Natalie Spooner, and Jesse Comfer are all exceptional players who did not need to be protected because they're UFAs. Toronto's biggest threat to their roster being competent is whether or not they can fucking fit all of their good players under the salary cap. And for fuck's sake, losing Sarah Nurse for nothing greatly increases their probability of being able to fit all of their star UFAs under the salary cap. So, like, for the love of all that is fucking good and well, like, teams aren't getting pillaged, with the exception of Boston. And that's not because Boston, made any poor decisions. Like, Minnesota's, Vikings, West Coast pillaging came down to just poor general management decisions. Like, the only team that's really getting leveled here is Boston because their roster isn't very fucking good. Like, they don't have a lot of stars. Losing their best player, who, to be fair, was the right sacrifice. Like, losing Hannah Bilka. After that, nobody that Boston loses is like significantly consequential to the long run. Like, the expansion draft in and of itself at this point, I think, is being looked at as a boogeyman of like, look, the players on your team, like Seattle and Vancouver aren't gonna like they're going to be good because they got good players and like much like the Vegas Golden Knights are going to be able to build a logical system from the ground up and not have to inherit years of disasters and mistakes. But like when I look at the inaugural six and like where they're going, like with the expansion teams, losing your star players is fine because that generally means, we're going to talk about the dilution of talent. The PWHL defensively is actually going to, and this is a crazy thing to say, the PWHL defensively might actually benefit from the defensive ability being diluted, where with the quality of talent being diluted a little bit in the bottom six and the bottom four of teams, you're going to see an uptick in fucking scoring in a league with unbelievable goaltending. And just like, and I alluded to this in my expansion article, how I came out and fucking pretty much said it without even tiptoeing. Like, PWHL goaltending is ridiculous relative to any other league versus its scoring capacity. That, like, any level of star loading of the expansion teams is of no consequence to the relativity of goaltending ability. Like, the only reason that Seattle has a chance of being a wagon is because New York fucked up and let one of the best goalies on the planet go. Aside from that, though, like the playing field is more level, I think, than people realize, and I don't think that the expansion teams, in terms of a 30-game round robin style season, are any more like juiced than any other PWHL team. And I know I'm saying that after just the first 5 signings for both, but like in a vacuum, there's only a finite amount of fucking goals that are going to be scored with the goaltending caliber of the league. Like, the sky isn't falling. Like, New York and Boston are probably going to suck this year because they haven't put together and maintained a solid roster, and their coaching is questionable. If they can fix their shit in the offseason and go out and improve their roster, great. If not, like, it's not Seattle and Vancouver's fault the two teams with questionable rosters didn't get better. And on that note, I think we're just about ready to unicycle our way into the big finish.
Um, before we progress, I I think another distinction we can make from Chatburn and your little one-sided verbal sparring partner there, for all intents and purposes, is that Chatburn also seems to enthusiastically just devour negative attention in a way that is, you know, completely that should completely be beneath a middle-aged man. But I mean, I guess that's just the Philadelphia effect.
I'll also, to the credit of Chatburn as well in my delineation here, he's occasionally right,
Very occasionally.
but he's occasionally right, and that is.
It's just such an extremely low strike rate that I can barely like uh get behind it as like a point of praise because like I just think like one of the biggest driving forces behind this guy is that he's the probably the most vocal advocate for the Owen Tippett contract actually being uh, a worthy price tag. Like I have never seen someone who just goes uh, that hard uh, for him. Like it's pretty ridiculous.
Though, speaking of, I'm glad so I have finished the skeleton for my PWHL draft rankings, which is going to come out probably on Tuesday or Wednesday night this week. And I went more in depth this year than last year, getting into the nitty gritty. But the fact that I batted, my top 10 prospects last year, the fact that I batted 900, where not only did 9 out of my top 10 players get drafted, but the fact that 9 out of the 10 players I listed also were in at least the 21st percentile of scoring efficiency in their position group as rookies says I actually know what the fuck is going on. So, yeah, yeah. Just to reinforce the fact that we here at Black Stitch Hockey and our scouting abilities in both men's and women are starting to cultivate a pretty decent track record here. And that pivots to God, seeing Cam Robinson call Cole Reshny slippery on X right now just threw me for a loop.
I'm literally,
Um,
I literally opened that thread like just like minutes before you did. Like I've had that open for like 2 minutes and like looking at Derek's like question for clarification. Oh, here we go. Uh, damn it! I was I appreciate the response, but like I was hoping for something a little bit more serious. Because he does answer Derek's question. Which basic category would you most attribute slipperiness to? Sense, handling, skating. It's kind of a combination of the three, but it's interesting nonetheless. And Robinson's just like, I'm thinking some sort of lubricant. WD-40? And I'm just like, I'm amused, but I'm disappointed at the same time.
I don't know. I don't think Cole Reshny is WD-40. I think he's more sesame seed oil. Great flavor profile. Take that how you will, ladies and gentlemen. It is Pride Month.
I do endorse this sentiment though, because like I'm not gonna compare him to the great one outright, but like he does have that Gretzky-esque element of just like having that having like the right body manipulation skill to avoid checks and like just having that be one of his best assets offensively to make up for that lack of natural mobility. So I was like, yeah, I don't know if I would have framed it in this manner, but it's pretty cool. Slippery. Oof.
I'm
But
I'm joining the chat with my a less vulgar sesame seed oil reference over on X. I'm here to be a menace tonight, apparently. Weirdest guy in the room.
in the rum, sesame soil. But yeah, for this week's big finish, I think that so this kind of just double taps on a sentiment I've already espoused, but now we can get into like the concrete reality of something because we're actually in this dialogue already as the rumors have intensified again, yet again to Russ Joy and Anthony Sanfilippo's dismay over Snow the goalie regarding and not even about the acquisition itself, but just their approach to how the dialogue about it is going on. The, the intensified rumors of Maxim Shabanov having been signed or being about to sign in Philadelphia. Yet again, I'm going to be honest. I think this might even be more applicable than Marco Rossi in some ways. Like, we can't get caught up on the size of this player because it's a chance to add elite, just like elite skill level to this roster and to that forward group, especially that they desperately need. And that's not even getting into the fact that Shabanov's like listed height and weight are definitely out of date. Like that, I'm sorry to say this, but like that kid is not still 5'8", 157. For one thing, we're totally exaggerating this. For another, like we're not at the point with the talent level on the roster where we can get nitpicky about guys' physical attributes. When we have a chance to add a player that skilled, that intelligent, that can coalesce with Matvei Michkov pretty easily, we can't afford to get nitpicky about this. So this is absolutely something that we should welcome with open arms, and I'm really eager to see him in North America wearing orange and black next year because, like, I've seen what this uh, guy is capable of. I've seen quite a bit of like his exploits with Tractor Chelyabinsk the last couple of years, with them having been uh, an all-star rightfully a couple of times, with them having contributed to a Gagarin Cup final run into no small degree at that. This is just something you want to have in your ecosystem. Like there's just we can't afford to get greedy at this stage, so we should be pretty enthusiastic about the prospect of such an addition to the forward depth on this team.
Something I've talked about and that I really just want to double click on, in the world of expansion in the PWHL. Really just love to see the New England representation out in Seattle, Megan Turner, Alex Carpenter, and, our native daughter, Hillary Knight, going out there to really build a cool team out there. I really look forward to seeing, an East Coast Wizards product. Shout out to our boy Gover, who's also an alumni of the East Coast Wizards system.
Alumnus.
Going out, alumnus, you were correct. Alumnus from the East Coast Wizards system, going out and being a core pillar of not only the New York team a couple years ago, but really being a pillar of building pro hockey in Seattle, in a city that hasn't really had women's hockey in the same culture that we have it here in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. So just really love to see that representation out there. That's all I got.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna hop off prematurely.
Quite fine.
Uh-huh.
I'll handle the outro proceedings unaccompanied. I feel pretty capable. I really hope that we see these interesting developments continue to play out pertaining to you know uh, ongoing Stanley Cup Finals narratives and the draft, and that everybody will continue to be here with us for that. We'll continue to produce good content for you, hopefully. I think there should be some more written stuff coming out in the near future of varying natures. I've been working on, finalizing prospect evaluations and draft rankings and stuff, sort of to varying degrees of formality. I, look forward to sharing that all with you. Christian, I'm sure we'll cook up some more stuff, and we'll continue to discuss what goes on. And hopefully there are a couple more really good games between you know tonight and next Sunday in that matchup. That gives us you know something to really, really work with and discuss with you all. But thank you to everybody who tuned in. Thank you to everyone who's checking us out on Spotify and YouTube. We'll see you again next week. Take care, everybody. Have a great